Okay, so it's my pleasure to introduce myself, Mahesha. I'm from Nutanix, based out of Bangalore, and I would like to also introduce to Rajiv, who is the CEO of Nutanix, and also he's the alumnus of IIT Madras from 1986 batch. So he's been the CEO of Nutanix for last 5+ years. Otherwise, the industry veteran. Post his BTech from IIT Madras. He did his master's and PhD from University of California, Berkeley in electrical engineering. So we, in fact, are here because we are associating ourselves with IIT Madras, very proud, through the corporate social responsibility contributions to fund scholarships, support IIT Madras with equipment in the data center, and also research grants. So that's how we have started, and we hope to scale up the engagement further as we move along. So as part of that, and I also know that we had a hackathon. Many of you participated, right? How many of you? Yeah, so yeah, quite a few. Okay, very few here. That's hopefully are coming. So, so I think we had our hackathon, and also we wanted to announce the winners, and then also have Rajiv, who is a distinguished alumnus of IIT Madras. Spend some time, basically, just share some top of the mind items into the technology and and about Nutanix and all, and then we'll drive it through Q&A to encourage folks. Okay, more people are coming in. So to encourage more questions, we also have a lot of prize for some of the questions. So hopefully Kirtana is not here yet, I think, right? So, okay, we'll have some questions for that. We will have prizes. Okay. So thank you again for joining, and probably we'll spend the next half an hour with that. And at the end of it, I think we also will have some pizzas. Everyone likes pizzas here? No? So someone said the kids are like pizzas here. You don't? You do. Okay, you do. So you have not turned fully healthy yet. So I think we'll have that, and probably we'll do some more networking and also. Again, thank you very much. I know it's pretty late in the evening for you guys. So let me also introduce some of my colleagues other than Rajiv Faiz, who is the Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Nutanix, and Shiva, who is the Director of R&D, and he's an alumnus of IIT Madras. Can I mention the year? I think 98. Okay. So, and then Sriram, who is the Head of Talent Acquisition. I hope and Swapna, and he is out here too. So I think we always have had a strong track record in hiring from IIT Madras, both in terms of interns as well as the fresh graduate college graduates. We would like to keep up that momentum and probably come back again around November, right? November, December is when the placement season starts, and we have quite a few interns who are working with us already. So hope to be able to convert many of them. So I think with that, allow me to hand over the mic to Rajiv and to say a few things about in general what's on top of his mind, and let's make it interactive. I said there will be some prizes for the questions, so there's some more motivation to ask questions. Okay, thank you.
As you can imagine, I'm also a Chennaiite, by the way. So I'm from this is my native place, and I'm from here. So always happy to come back to Chennai anytime and come. But my point there was, I think coming out of IIT Madras, you get a lot of confidence, and I would also say the ability to, which wasn't there as much in those days, to take on risk. Now is the time early on in your careers to, as you graduate, to go take on risk and try different things. You don't really have anything to lose. You can always get a job. But now is the time to go do bleeding edge stuff, go do interesting things, and go out there and learn the world. Now, of course, the world keeps changing. When we graduated 40 years ago, there was nothing in India for us. Very little. In fact, I remember when I graduated, the job I got was Indian Telephone Industries. I don't think they exist anymore. They make phones. ITI. They made phones. And it wasn't particularly interesting for us. So most of us went to the US. Most of us went to grad school there. And of course, that story has changed. I did the commencement here for the EE department a few years ago. And it was quite amazing. Most people did not leave India. And there were a few people who left who were working for companies all over the world. It wasn't that everybody was going to graduate education anymore. And so things have changed quite a bit. There's so much of opportunity here in India. And unfortunately, in fact, what's happening in the US is that it's becoming less friendly, and therefore, there's even more opportunity for you to go build your careers here than necessarily come to the US. And we as a company, by the way, Nutanix, also, we tend to do our leading edge work out of India. So our lead engineering teams are actually sitting in Bangalore and Pune. And we are at the top of the pyramid when it comes to computer science work, right? And our work is very core computer science. As a company, we do, we basically sit above the hardware, between the hardware and the applications. And companies run their application. I'll tell you in very, very simple terms what the way you should think of us is, think of us as the Android of business applications, or think of us as, how many of you guys have used AWS or Azure or Google Cloud? Quite a few. So you go there and you can go consume cloud resources and build your applications, run them. We provide that software layer that Google, Amazon, and Azure, all of them have inside their own data centers. We provide that layer of software to anybody who wants to build their own cloud and operate their own cloud. That's what we do as a company, in very simple terms. So while we are, we're not quite a household name in the same brand as Microsoft or others, but we are actually in the same category when it comes to leadership in our segment. And we compete for talent, namely you guys here, with those people, right? So people have come to us. In fact, our founders came from Google. So we have people from Google, AWS, Azure, all these other companies. They come, of course, a lot of new grads. We had a few hundred new grads every year, both globally as well as in India. And I would encourage all of you to explore careers at Nutanix if the work is interesting to you. Like I said, I just described what we do. But I'm sure that that's probably not top of mind for you guys. You're probably thinking about, okay, I'm going to graduate in a few years from now, and what am I going to go do after that, and what should I be doing? So maybe this is a good time for me to stop talking and have you folks ask some questions. That way we can guide the discussion to what you're interested in. So let's go. Who wants to ask questions? Go ahead. Nobody? Everybody wants to get their pizza so quickly. You only get your pizzas after a few questions.
The number of slices depend on the number of questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
First of all, thank you for this opportunity. I have two questions. First question, why it's always electrical people are CEOs and founders? And second question, right now, whatever the geopolitical equation in the world, especially about the relation between US and India, so many of our talented people from India, they go to US and carry forward their career.
Yeah.
But right now, whatever the situation in US, why don't the people who are so much talented and they went to US from India, why didn't they do something for this? They raise their voice. They have so much power there. Then why not? They can come back to India as well.
Very good questions, by the way. And introduce yourself. What's your name? And
I'm Roshan Kumar Bhaskar from Mac Department, first year.
Fantastic. Good. So on the first one, by the way, I don't think there's any correlation between whether you're doing EE or CS or whatever you're doing to becoming a CEO. Okay, absolutely no correlation. I'll tell you. To me, it's all about you making use of the opportunities that are in front of you. And I'll tell you sort of a few sort of life lessons that might come in helpful, right? And by the way, not everybody becomes a CEO. Not everybody needs to become a CEO. But I think in general, I'll tell you a few things that will help you as a career thing, right? First thing is always have a learning mindset. Always be learning. Okay, learning never stops. It doesn't stop after your degree. It doesn't stop after you work for a few years. It continues forever. I continue to learn every day. Okay, and whether it may be technical talent, technical skill sets. It may be presentation skills. It might be how to deal with specific topics. So what it is that you're learning will constantly evolve. And if you stop learning, by the way, that's a bad thing. So I would say that's helped me personally very much, right? Every step in my career, it's been about learning. And I'll tell you as an example, for example, when I became a CEO for the first time 5 years ago, I had run companies, divisions at bigger scale than Nutanix and so on. But here, there's several things that I had to step up and do for the first time that I had not done before. And that was a learning experience. I'll give you one example. So every quarter after we produce our results, I have to get in front of broadcast TV. and go there, and they'll typically do a 5-minute segment. It's aired live and all the business networks. And you don't know exactly what they're going to ask you. Okay. So this wasn't something that I had done routinely before, So you have to make the most out of that 5 minutes that you get on the air to convey your message, and you have to be prepared for anything they can shoot at you. And unlike politicians, politicians, of course, you can ask them a question and they can talk about whatever they want. It doesn't matter. They don't have to answer the question. You don't have that luxury, because if you do that, you lose credibility. And so what you learn is how to answer difficult questions as and when they come up, and how to potentially do that while at the same time making sure you get your key messages across. So that's a learning experience. Technically, for me, this whole thing of generative AI, if you had asked me 4 years ago what's all this generative AI about, I had no clue myself. And now 4 years later, I can say dangerous enough to ask the right questions, but I'm not the expert. So that learning, I think, comes in to good skills. Second is, I think, if you do stop learning, it's probably time for you to think about doing something different that will actually cause you to learn something. Don't get too comfortable in whatever you're doing. If you get too comfortable and it becomes too easy, then I think you are actually limiting yourself. You should be thinking about what you do as the next step, right? What should you be doing? And actually, every step of my career has been that way, right? You do something for a period of time, and you explore it to the max. You learn the max, and at some point, if you feel you're not going to learn anything, it's time to do something different. Okay, number one. Number two, build your network really well. And I know your question is turning into a half an hour answer, but I do think this is a useful thing for you to know. Build your network. Every job that I've gotten has been through my network. Every job, every step of the way, including this last job as a CEO. And it comes in very strange ways, by the way. So this particular job, I'll tell you how I got this one. It turns out that, I do, for many, many years, I've known somebody here. We do a charity step together. In fact, we build schools, rural schools in India. And so this person is also my tennis buddy. We play tennis together. And he turned out to be an early investor in Nutanix, by the way. And when Nutanix was looking to bring on a CEO, he said, Rajiv, I think you'd be the best CEO for this company. Why don't you take a look at it? And he connected me to the board at Nutanix. And that's how I got this job. And I wasn't even particularly looking, but the fact that I knew this person and I've known him for a while and built a network really helped. And so this network, and if you can build a network of people who can be your mentors, and more important, mentors are people who can give you advice, but also sponsors who will actually, watch for you and who will push you forward. That's invaluable, I'll tell you, right, from your perspective as a career building thing. So I think those two things truly help. And then, for me, as you get into management levels and so on, I think the thing that I will tell you have to do is make sure you have the best talent around you. Make sure you're hiring the best people. Don't be afraid of hiring people who are better than you, by the way. Because if they are better than you, then I tell you, your job gets much easier. The fact that we have Faiz here, for example, who's doing a fantastic job running our India operations, makes it easier for guys like me, because when the team does well, they do the numbers, it's great. So I think you should always be looking to hire and promote great talent, and they're going to make they're going to make you more successful. And so anyway, those are some of the, I think, things that I would say will help you in good stead in terms of your career advancement. Okay, it doesn't matter what you're doing. Doesn't matter if you're an EECS guy or whatever. Now, on your question on the US and what's happening there, I tell you, it puts guys like me in a very uncomfortable place, to be very honest, because the US was the land where you could get the best talent in the world. I benefit from that. Right? I went to grad school there. I went to a great school, Berkeley, and it opened doors for me. And I've always I started out, went on a student visa, converted to an H1 when the H1 program was actually just starting back, and then got my green card and citizenship, right? And I built my career there, built my life and family there, but also contributed a lot to America, right? So I think that you start missing that. I think with the kind of thing that's going on now, you're disincentivizing people from coming. Now, conversely, what that means is phenomenal opportunity for India. In fact, we had this. How many of you know Ayo Shraddha? Anybody know? Followed her on Instagram? Stand-up comedian from Bangalore. Yeah. Anyway, we had her around for our event, and we had a sales conference in Mumbai, and she was there. She did a comedy show, and she said one of the best things that has happened to India is Trump. And guess what? Because I mean, now the companies like us, we will hire more people here because of their talent here, right? And many of the good people over there are going to come back because you're not going to get visas there to pursue your dream. And so that's going to force people to come back. And I think that's a good thing for India. It's going to open up more doors, more opportunity, more talent here. And so so in terms of why are people not complaining? It's a very difficult and challenging environment because on the one side, there are repercussions, right? I mean, of doing what you do. And so we are all, at this point, first of all, laws keep changing. In fact, we're not exactly sure how all of this is going to even roll out at this point because things can change rapidly. It's not set in stone. I think, for example, when this ruling came out about H-1Bs, there were a bunch of people who were getting on planes to come to India who all got off the plane and stayed back because they were worried they couldn't get back onto the US. But then that rule changed very quickly. The clarification was issued a few days later saying this is only going to apply to new H-1B visas, not to anybody who's on existing. So we don't know. I think this thing hasn't really steadied out. So I can tell you that everybody is talking and trying to figure out what to do and what are the next things to do here. So it doesn't mean, it's still very early days, right? So we'll see what happens and how the situation develops. Yes. Go ahead. Yeah, pass the mic. Yeah.
Again, I have two questions. One, as
IIT guys only ask two questions. Never ask one question. Go ahead.
as someone who has passed out from IIT Madras and it's been 39 years, can you walk us through your career and say some of the key learning points? And someone as someone who is at the head of some company, what do you look for apart from the core skill required for the work in someone you're trying to hire or you appreciate?
Let me answer the second question first, and then I'll go to the other one because that other one we can talk forever. I tell you, I think I look for people who are hungry.
Hungry for?
Hungry. They're hungry. They want to do more. They want to take on more. Not hungry for pizzas. No, not hungry for pizzas. That would be the outdoor there. But hungry. When I say hungry, they are going to go. They have the drive. They have the ambition. They're going to go put in whatever it takes to go make things happen. Because you want people who are going to be go-getters, who are going to get things done. People who can be independent, who can go drive and take on more. And that's what I advise my own son. Now when he graduated from college a few years ago, I said, yeah, this is what you need to do. Go into wherever you're going to work and be hungry because you need to learn on this job. You have to go take on new stuff. Nobody's going to spoon feed you. Okay, if you're expecting to be spoon fed, then you know what, you're limiting yourself. Don't expect to be spoon fed. You're all smart guys, smart people. You're the smartest of the lot here. And so take on more, take on the initiative, drive more, and that's going to actually help you in great stead. Come on, so don't be afraid of don't be too confined to staying within your boundaries, right? Go out there when you get your first job. Go out there, make connections, learn, take on more tasks. You might get some initial set of assignments, but go finish those quickly. Get on and display a curiosity for taking on more. And I tell you so I look a lot at potential when I hire people. Now, for specific jobs, you also need experience, of course, and there's the other side of the equation, which is the experience. And do you have the right background? Do you have the right training? Do you have all of that to do a job at my level? For example, when I'm hiring somebody at a C level to run a big function, it's hard to get somebody with no experience, right? Because that's a very top position. So of course you have to have the experience. But what I look for, and when I interview people, is I want to know, you got into your last job, okay? What did you get done? Tell me what it was like before. What is it like when you left? What happened? What impact did you have, and how did you measure that impact? And I want to look for how well, and then I ask questions along the way to understand, were they really in it? Did they really have a good sense of what was happening and what was in there? And they should know their matter, right? They should know their subject. They should know their domain. And if they can talk about it confidently, I should say, then it gives me more confidence that they know what they're doing. This person actually has clarity around what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, and then clarity on what needs to be accomplished and what outcomes need to be delivered. So those are some of the things that I look for when I hire talent or promote talent, for that matter, inside. The first question was, you can sit down, by the way, you don't have to stand, it's not a punishment. So the first question is more my career journey. It's a long one, 39 years of it. But I'll tell you, maybe I'll go through a few points along the way. So first point was grad school at Berkeley. And it was not easy, I'll tell you. Very difficult, actually. So I had to get, the first thing I had to do there was get through my PhD qualifying exams, which, by the way, in Berkeley are very notorious. It's at that time, and still is, by the way, 3 subjects. You have to take your major subject and 2 other subjects. Each subject is 3 30-minute oral interviews with a professor, you and a professor, one-on-one, okay? They can ask you anything about the subject. They can ask you probably anything even beyond the subject matter. And it's 30 minutes you have to go. So a total of 9 30-minute sessions you have to clear. So I remember going to one professor. Okay, I'd picked semiconductor devices was one of the topics that I'd picked, along with a couple of other topics. So this professor, a young fellow who had graduated, I think, from Caltech and just started at Berkeley, was an assistant professor back then. So he said, I only have one question for you. Okay, tell me what happens when the world goes to absolute zero. That was the question. That was the PhD qualifying question, okay? One question, of course. Nobody could have prepared for that. I didn't prepare for it either. And I didn't have the answers, for sure, okay? But what he wanted to know, I realized, was just how am I going to think about that problem? Okay, you ask this problem, how are you going to go think about it? I don't even remember what I said, but he gave me a 10 on 10 out of that, right? For that particular 30-minute session. Because I think it was more thinking about it from first principles. I started thinking about, okay, what would happen to each area, right, that I knew about. What would happen to a device? What would happen to a PN junction? What would happen to whatever, right? And started thinking about it without necessarily having all the answers, but he liked the way I was thinking and how I was approaching the problem rather than trying to solve it and get the answers right there. So you should be prepared for those types of questions. So that was pretty hard, but anyway, I cleared that. And then the first opportunity for me came when there was a bulletin board posting asking for an internship opportunity at IBM Research Labs in Zurich, Switzerland. I was sitting in the US, and so I applied for that just on a whim, and this was in 1980, and I got the job. And this was a lab with 200 people, 4 Nobel laureates, and some really key people in communications, which was my field at that time. The guy who invented modems actually worked there. So great summer experience for me. I learned IBM research quite well. And then I go back to Berkeley, and then my advisor says, you know what, I'm leaving, my PhD advisor, because I'm going to go into tech and go after investing in companies and so on. You better go find another advisor. This was 2 years into my PhD at that time, and I said, oh my God, I will start from scratch again. So then I decided I'm going to get a master's degree. So I got my master's degree, but I'd done all the coursework for it, which I wasn't even planning on getting. So I got my master's degree and started looking for a job, and IBM Research found a job. They gave me a job. And I was so lucky to talk about one of the examples I said. The first hiring manager, and I was just plain old lucky, was a person who was at the tail end of his career. He was in his 60s at that time, and I was 24, maybe 23, 24 at that time. And he was starting a new project, and he was a very famous guy. He was the guy who built the first, what's called the spread spectrum system, which is now, it's a receiver used in every one of your cell phones today, by the way. So he was the guy who built that and invented that, for example. He was the first guy to map the surface of Venus. So real top-notch guy at the peak of his career. And he was starting something new in optical networking. And I was the second hire into that group. And, he became a phenomenal mentor and sponsor for me. And we went on, I got... I started out there. He became my PhD advisor along with my advisor at Berkeley, who still said, okay, you can stay with me, but don't expect any help from me. I completed my PhD in another couple of years based on all the work I did there. And then he turned out to be my mentor for many, many years after that. We kept in touch for 30 plus years until he passed away in his 90s. And we became very, very close friends. So I was very lucky to have a person like that as my first manager. And he opened a lot of doors. And then, he promoted me. He gave me a lot of exposure in the industry. I was a research guy, right, doing papers and publishing stuff and patents. And we ended up building one of the first commercial systems in that area back in the 90s. And then I ended up, he retired after that. I ended up taking over the group and eventually moved to Silicon Valley because this stuff was getting very, very hot. Optical networking was in its big boom days back in the late 90s. and there were a bunch of startups. And I went in. I moved my family. We had 2 kids, 2 small kids. My son was just 2 or 3 months old at the time, and we moved back to the West Coast from the East Coast. I was in New York, moved back, and I joined as employee number 3 in a startup, and had a fantastic time there for a very short time though, because that was 99. And then in 2000, very quickly, just a little over a year after I joined this company, we got multiple offers to be acquired. And I was in the management team. I was a VP by the time, and that was the worst ever decision I made, convincing my co-founders of taking a particular deal. Okay, we got an offer on the table for $1.5 billion in cash, and if we had taken the dollars in cash, we would have gotten the $1.5 billion done, cash over. Instead, I convinced them to take a $3.5 billion offer in stock. Okay, and this company was called Nortel Networks. Nortel was a top company in Canada, number 1 company in Canada. And we said, great, $3.5 billion from them. Why would we take a $1.5 billion cash offer when we had a $3.5 billion stock offer? We took it. And guess what happened to that company? They went bankrupt. Okay, the bottom fell out in 2000. Soon thereafter, right, that business, when they bought us, by the way, they were doing a $10 billion business in optical networking. Within a year, that business had come down to $1 billion. It had come down 90%. And the stock, of course, tanked right after that, right? They bought us, I think, I still remember, they bought us, the purchase price was $70 per share. They started going down, and then it went to zero after it went bankrupt. And we were all left holding the bag. Yeah, we had a lot of stock, but it was worthless. So that taught me a bunch of life lessons very, very hard, which is diversify. Never bet on a single stock. Cash is king, by the way. Cash in hand is worth a lot in potential wealth down the road. But diversify. Don't hold on to your shares and watch them go down, walk it down like this. So that was a good life lesson. But then I went on to get another. I was still young back then and went to Cisco, and then I changed my focus to become more of a general manager from being a technical guy. So that was one of the big career shifts for me, which is I was a technical guy, running teams, of course, managing teams and so forth, but still very technical, and then had to run a business. And that was a whole new set of learning experiences. And that happened in the early mid-2000s, and then after that, it's been all running a bunch of different business units, and then now running a company. So that's my career journey.
Before you answer this question,
Yeah.
maybe you will give away the
All right.
question. People who ask the question will give away some goodies here, as promised.
It's like interesting goodies.
The other one.
So
You want Raju to give you?
That's okay, you can take it, come on. I think he cares more about what this is about. What is it? It's a nice pair of headsets, man. Wow, if I had known this, I would have joined the hackathon too. Yeah, enjoy it.
And who is the second one who asked?
How many of these do you have, man? You have a whole collection of these?
We have 10. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So 10 questions will get this.
Oh, now there's going to be a competition for question
Oh, yeah,
asking.
yeah.
Look at that. All right. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So my question is, I want a mic or?
My question is kind of related to views on across your career, across VMware, Cisco, and now Nutanix. What have been some of your fondest memories?
Lots of them, actually. So many. I mean, first of all, I'll say it's all about the people that you work with. And for me in particular, I think I've had great colleagues. I had the good fortune of working with people from all those companies who are still very much people I am in touch with. I'm in touch with some people I worked back at IBM, back those many years ago. In fact, the current CEO of IBM is a very close friend of mine because we started our careers together. He stayed at IBM all this time, 39 years, while I moved around. But Arvind is a close friend, and so for me, the best memories are actually the time I spent with people, because you spend a lot of your time at work, and I've had the good fortune of at least being surrounded by great people, and these are people you make friends with, and you make lifelong friends with, and you interact with them. Some people I've worked with at multiple companies. There's like some people I've worked with like 3 companies in a row, for example, and so I think that's, and of course there's always moments in each of these companies where you hit milestones that are memorable. Building the first product in optical networking, commercial product, for me was a big milestone, because that was my own first product, and it was also one of the first products in the industry, and getting that to market, that was a very exciting set of milestones, right, for me. And those milestones keep changing. I think even at Nutanix, for example, I think we've come a long way over the last 5 years, and for me, there's a lot of personal satisfaction in the fact that we've been able to get to a place where the future looks very bright. There's a lot of opportunity for us, and to be able to have a role in shaping that and creating that is very fulfilling. Yeah, go down back there. I know there's a lot of questions. Yes, go back there. So I'll tell you, so this is a very good question. So her question was, how important is it to have passion for technology, and how can one increase your passion? Okay, I tell you, for me, why am I working today? Because I enjoy doing what I do. Okay, I don't have to work for a living, but I work because I enjoy it. And I tell you, life is too short to be wasted. You're all actually very competent, very much bleeding edge. You're at the top of your peer groups. Make sure you're doing what you enjoy. And you have to enjoy. Now, what you enjoy may be very different, right? I mean, it may be, for example, if you're going to medicine, I could never have gone into medicine because I would never have enjoyed it. It's just not something for me, right? And, but I truly enjoy doing this. And I've enjoyed every job, every role that I've had. Maybe I've been luckier than others, perhaps, but I've certainly enjoyed it. Now, I don't know what can stoke that passion. Okay, that's very hard. That's a very personal thing. People are triggered by different things. People get interested in different things. But I would just say, don't waste your life doing things you don't want to do. Do what you want to do, and because you have the ability, you have the opportunity in front of you to do what you like, and do that. Now, I'll tell you, that's my philosophy. I can tell you that that's not necessarily the same of my kids too, by the way. Like, for example, I have a daughter and a son, and both of them they have a more clinical approach. Maybe it's a different generation, right? They have a more clinical approach to work than what I had, I'll tell you, because I was all in, and I still am all in. But for them, I think it's more of like, okay, I'm doing this. I don't quite have a passion for it. I enjoy doing it, but I'm not like passionate about it. And I'm not sure, they have different interests, and they haven't maybe quite sorted out exactly what interests really they will have the passion for. So they're in that stage, right? They're still trying to figure out, I think, what their passion is. But they seem to sort of say, okay, well, I like the work, but I'm not sure if I'm super passionate about it. So it depends, right, on the person. And but I would say, for me, that's been actually the motivating force for me, right? The driving force for me all along has been that I enjoy doing what I'm doing, and which is what I'm doing. Like there's a lot of questions. Oh my God. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Okay, you got the mic first. Go and you can go next. Yeah.
My question is what do you see as the future technical leaders that will define the current AI revolution as a technical leaders? And second, continuing this, that how Nutanix was able to survive when there was already a global leader surviving in the cloud architecture?
Yeah, I think both are good questions. So first on the AI piece, I think to me it's about making sure that you find the right use cases and you provide compelling value propositions. So look, I think technology for the sake of technology, nobody cares about, okay? Tech has to achieve something. And what is that something? So to me, if you're actually, AI has a lot of potential. Now what you have to do is to convert that potential into strong business use cases that make a difference. It's one thing to play around with ChatGPT and use it for fun, okay? But you want to actually get productivity up. You want to get your own individual productivity up significantly, right, by using those tools, so that you can get a lot more done. And so you should be thinking about what outcomes you can get personally out of it. And then for companies like ourselves, it's about how can we actually get significant productivity. Can I actually get a lot more software done with fewer people with AI, using AI, for example? We are a software company, so that's paramount. Can we increase the efficiency of selling? Can we be much better at targeting your potential customers and understanding what's the landscape there? So I think we have to, figure out the right use cases and make sure that we're getting the right outcomes from technology. What is the other question? Sorry.
That how Nutanix was able to.
Yeah, how Nutanix was. Yeah. So look, I think one very interesting and something that I'm personally proud of, for example, if you look at market research data, Gartner, who follows our space, puts us in the leader quadrant, okay, for distributed cloud, along with Google, along with AWS, right, and along with Microsoft.
Like what I believe is that Amazon can capture any business if they want to.
So I'll tell you, so to me, we're a much smaller company than any of those, right? but I'll tell you, we've had this challenger mindset. Okay, this is what I mean by saying hungry, right? If you look at our philosophy as a company, of course, we have great tech, right? And we hire the best people. We hire people at the top of the pyramid. We compete for talent with those companies, by the way, and the best startups. And we hire good people, and we have bleeding edge work. But we're not afraid to take on and change things, right? So our philosophy, by the way, is we have great technology, but we also focus very much and obsess about our customers. Okay, I don't know how many of you know there's something called a net promoter score. Have you heard of what a net promoter score is? Net promoter score measures how a customer looks at you and how they rate you. Okay. Now, one of the best companies I would say that I personally like is my Apple. Apple. Okay, if you look at their products, they're beautiful. They're designed so well. The out of the box experience is so fantastic. You know what their net promoter score is? It's about 60. Okay, the higher the number, the better. By the way, and the lower the number, some people are negative. Negative means, by the way, nobody buys. You should not buy this thing. Customers hate you. They want to move away from you. By the way. And a 60 is a pretty good score. Nutanix, our first culture principle is we obsess about our customers. We want to make sure our customers are happy, they're successful. Our net promoter score for the last 10 years has been 90. We are at the very top of the industry. Okay, better than most others. And why? Because we make sure we also architect our tech for usability, making it easy, making it very robust. We support our customers really, really well, and they have a great experience. And they're using us for mission critical applications. It's not playthings, right? They're running their business on us. Top 10 banks in the country run their systems on us. It goes for defense, goes for hospitals. So we earn that trust. And so while we are smaller than them, right, we are the market share leader in India, for example, in our category. So that's, I think, what I mean, the mindset of saying, look, we can change the game. We can build things in a different way, in a much simpler way, bring cloud to the masses, right? We can bring cloud to everybody who wants to build it, who wants to have a cloud in their own data centers, in their own edges. We can do that. Okay, there were some questions here. I think the lady back here. Yeah.
So many people say that switching the company frequently will your day and so again, being in the same company will give more learning opportunities. So what do you suggest for us?
Look, there's no right or wrong thing. What I'll tell you is this. I mean, of course, money is important, right? I mean, you can't. But I would not anchor everything 100% on money. Okay, so if somebody's going to pay you 10, 20%. If somebody's going to pay you 10x more, please go take it. Okay, I mean, I'm just not. If somebody's going to pay you 10, 20% more, then you should really weigh. Is that what you want? Because that's. I would say I would anchor more in terms of where can you actually grow, where can you learn more. Where is the job more interesting? Where are the people around you more interesting? What's more nurturing, especially early in career? I would anchor on that. Now, if somebody, like I said, gives you 5x more, 10x more, yeah, sure, different. But 10% more, 20% more, that's to me not the criteria you should be using in terms of your career choices.
So what kind of opportunities would you look for when you're joining?
Well, look for companies where, first of all, there's great technology, there's a great learning environment, you like the people, you like the ethos of the company. What is the company doing? Does it appeal to you? Is it interesting work for you? Can you learn? Can you grow? Especially early in career, that's what you care about, right? You're going to try and figure out a place where you can learn a lot and get some. Now, the other equation, of course, is you decide you're going to go do a startup yourself, right? And there, I think I would encourage all of you to go try that. If you it requires a certain DNA, and it's a learning experience of a very different kind. And if you succeed, great. You'll do really well. You'll make a lot of money. Potentially, especially if you join early. What you should know is if you join a startup very late, there's no point. You're not going to make that much money compared to an established company. If you join a startup very early, then there's a potential you'll make a lot of money. But there's also a higher potential of failure, right? The startup may not go anywhere. 1 in 10 startups really make it big. You don't hear about the other 9 that's shut down. You hear about the one that make it really big. And if you happen to be picking that one, it's great. And you join early, it's great. So those are the choices. Oh, okay. Okay, so somebody else can, okay, go here. Mike? I'll repeat the question.
So what I actually want to know is, as a person who wants to go for research and also likes the managerial part, so how did you make the choice in your career, and also which
So I think the question, to paraphrase it, is, as a person, how do you decide between going down a managerial track and a technical track or a research track, right? In my case. And again, there's no right or wrong answer here, by the way. And for me, my track changed. I started out as a researcher and I enjoyed every bit of it. Yeah. So it kind of, for me, happened naturally, okay, as part of my learning experience. Right? So I was, for the first 15 years of my career, I was in optical networking. Okay, and I was learning along the way, by the way. I was learning, I was growing, I went from being an individual research guy in optical networking to actually building a product, to managing teams, to being out there trying to sell products too, right? So there was a lot of learning during that period for me, but I was still very much an optical networking guy. And then along the way, I think the shift came for me when almost sort of by chance, so I was managing, by the way, at the time. I was already managing groups and that was fine. The real shift for me came sort of when I moved from being more of a technical oriented guy to a business leader. That happened entirely, I'll tell you, opportunistically, because I wasn't even looking for it, okay, to be honest. It so happened that I was hired as a CTO for this optical division at Cisco. And then the guy who was the general manager for the division was fired. And my boss at that time said, okay, you're going to be the new general manager of this group. And I didn't even know whether I was going to like it or not like it, but it was different enough. And I said, okay, at least I know the domain. I know the subject matter. But now I have to go figure out how to run a business. And so I took the job. And I haven't looked back ever since, and because from there, that was a relatively easier transition because I had learned the business side of it, but I knew the technology. 2 years later, another job showed up where it's a completely different business in Cisco, general manager. But I was no longer the subject matter expert at this point, right? So I was out of my comfort zone on that front, right? It was completely different set of technologies, different business environment, different market competitors, very different, right? But I tell you, I enjoyed it, every bit of it, because it was a learning experience for me again. And so I said, okay, I know there's optical networking. I know it deep enough. That's fine. Great. But then I learned some of my skills as a general manager and how to run a business. And those skills are very portable to my new job. Okay. So, but now I have to learn enough about this technology so that I can be dangerous and ask the right questions. I don't have to be the experts. So I realized that was actually a mental change that you need. You don't have to be the expert anymore, but you have to understand the dynamics enough to ask the right questions of your team. So for me, it happened very naturally is the answer to that. And there's no right or wrong. For me, everything kind of happened, going from in fact, what happens in most companies today, you take strong technical people and then some of them you turn into managers, okay? And by the way, and then you realize that not all managers not all great technical people become good managers because it's a different skill set now. Yes, as a first-line manager, you have to know your domain, but you also have to be able to go manage people very well. So, and that's a very different skill set that you have to learn. So there is no right or wrong thing here, right? Depending on your comfort zone, you'll pick what you want. And so the other question there, what are you passionate about? How much time do we have, guys? I think we got last two questions. I know we're going to have a raffle. Everybody wants this. All right. I will, I think I need to go somewhere that said, all right, go ahead over there. Go ahead, get your question. Yeah, you can get a mic. I'll repeat the question. Go ahead. So question is, any advice for students who are preparing for internships and jobs from a CEO's perspective? I don't do a lot of intern hiring, by the way. I should tell you that myself. But I'll tell you again. I think, look, first of all, I think for us as a company, why don't you talk about this, Maisha?
Oh yeah, I think so.
Yeah, you use my mic.
So the question really was, what do we look for in an intern, right? So I think in intern, obviously, the basic technical skills and domain understanding, what you have studied in your curriculum, I think that goes without saying, right? And also the aptitude and all, we have some written tests to evaluate that. But beyond, I think in the interview process, what we really look for is that attitude and whether you demands the can-do spirit and that intent to discover things, and whether you have the intellectual curiosity to learn. I think that becomes pretty critical because even though I think folks come on board as interns, and in Nutanix, they all work on the live projects, if you will. All of them are frontline, cutting edge and all. So in the sense that we would love to really see you being more independent to the extent possible, at the same time learn from the mentors. So that humility, intellectual curiosity and the hunger to learn and that can-do spirit and to stretch beyond what is obvious. I I think those are the ones which you look at the more personality level. Technical skills, I think it just like we primarily are in the business of system technologies, largely like writing operating systems, file systems, storage, networking, Kubernetes, like when you name it, we do it, right? I think those actually become important for us in terms of the domain skills and beyond that reasoning and other things.
Do we do a coding test? for
Yeah, we
interns?
do the coding test.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So
part
be
of the
prepared.
written test. Yes.
College life, that was 40 years ago, man, for me. But I tell you, some of the same life. For me, by the way, the best part of the IIT experience for me was making friends. Okay, lifelong friends. By the way, we're still to this day, 40 years later, every weekend we get together and play bridge. I don't know if bridge is still a thing here or not, but to me, that was actually the best experience. Was actually building the network of friends. We've remained friends for 40 plus years. Anyway, last question here now. I think okay. I'll go here, right here. Go ahead.
Okay.
So you mentioned that you had to leave your PhD halfway.
Yes.
So do you ever regret doing that, or like do you feel that if you had completed your PhD, life would have turned out differently?
I did complete my PhD, but not the way I wanted it to. So yeah, what it was for me was it was a tough thing, right? Because all of a sudden, if your advisors are no longer there, by the way, you need support. We have to get assistantships, right? So you can't be, you didn't have enough money to pay for it. I went to Berkeley assuming I would be fully paid through a scholarship, right, and fellowship, not out of pocket. I didn't have any money to pay for it out of pocket. So my advisor decided after 2 years to leave. That meant I had to go find somebody else who was going to fund this thing, right? Fund me, basically, through a research assistantship. That is a very difficult thing. So that was a setback for me. So I said, okay, let me get my master's degree. Let me get, that way I can start, at least have something to show for the 2 years I was there. I wanted to complete my PhD, and so part of the things that I was looking for, which luckily worked out for me, was to find a place that could actually allow me to continue doing my PhD in a research lab environment. And I was lucky to find that at IBM Research. So I did manage to finish my PhD a couple of years later, just based entirely on work I'd done at IBM. And IBM was phenomenal enough at that time to allow me to use that material for my PhD thesis. So that was I was lucky. All right, I think we got to bring this to a close, guys.
I know there are more questions. Sorry, we have to wind up. So we have a little bit of like a hackathon award-winning prize distribution. So Rajiv, just a few moments of your time. So
Sure.
Why don't you do the honors?
Thanks, Rajiv, for sharing your inspiring journey. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. So we're here to celebrate all of you. And we had a hackathon recently, and we had some phenomenal submissions. We had to pick top 3, but it wasn't easy. Let me make that very clear. Our judges were amazed by all the real life solutions that you all submitted. So we have top 3. So the first place goes to Rebase Rebel. Congratulations, Tejas. And second prize goes to Nutanix AI. Congratulations, guys. And third place goes to NP Not P. Congratulations. I'd also like to quickly call up all the participants to just pick up some goodies from our CEO. So, Rakesh Jorwar. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us and for your participation. See you again. Bye.